Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Technology Accelerator, where we break down new technologies and ultimately help you simplify technology complexity. And today we're going to talk about AI because it's such a hot topic. Artificial intelligence. It's everywhere ever since ChatGPT stormed onto the scene in November last year. It's taken the world by storm and it is the future. It is coming at us really, really fast. And so today I want to break down what businesses are getting wrong about AI and, more importantly, talk you through the steps about how you create an AI strategy. So today I want to break it down and we'll go into the more details in a second. But first, I'm just going to check the chat and the questions to see what's come in. I had a couple of questions come in ahead of time on the really interesting. Thanks again for your questions. Really interesting questions come in. A lot around what is AI, how to use it, and more importantly, how do we get started with AI? So I'm going to be covering that as well. Yep. So I'm just checking that's all coming in. Good stuff. Yeah. Thanks for joining. Good people joining from quite a different number of places here. That's awesome to see everyone join from various locations around the world, in fact, which is amazing in this day and age that we can connect so easily and share information so easily as well. So without further ado, let's dig into this. So let's start by what most businesses get wrong about AI. And it's not just about AI, this is about technology in general. And I've seen this throughout my career, my 25 years leading IT projects and technology consulting, all the way from when I was an employee working in a financial services company as an IT developer, all the way through to consulting with Deloitte and Ernst& Young. It happens so often. It's that companies and people get the shiny object syndrome. We just want to jump into using that new technology, and even more so with something as fascinating and amazing as AI. So to break this down, what we need to do is approach it in a very methodical method, but not slow things down. You have to do it quickly, but you have to do it in a very structured format. And this is how I do it. We break it down into 4 simple areas. And this won't be a surprise, but what we will do is get into the details, which will help give you clarity around how to do this right with the AI. So starts with one second, just get to the right screen. Starts with the who of what we need to do. So, sorry, starts with the why. Why do you need to do it? Any technology, including AI, why do you need to do this? Set your goals and your mission, and we'll talk about that in a second. Then you go into the what. What are you going to use it for? What is it? What are you trying to achieve? Then we go into the who, the people, the size of your organization, who's going to be using it, how you're going to make it happen, and then finally the how. You break down the steps. How do you get started? So let's talk about this. Let's break these down one by one. Now, starting with the why. So let's do this here. Starting with the why here. So the why is your first step in any technology change, especially around AI. And the reason that why AI is so important is because there was a quote, and I want to give you a quote from Gary Gensler, the chair of the SEC. So the Security and Exchange Commission in the US, the chairman, Gary Gensler, even he said that AI is the most transformative technology of our time. It's on par with the internet and even the mass production of automobiles, cars. So when someone like Gary Gensler, the chair of the SEC, a government organization, when they're saying this is transformative, you need to sit up and take notice. This is not just in the realms of people in their individuals just using ChatGPT or small startups and new companies, entrepreneurs using AI. This is in big business. This is getting into government, institutions. This is everywhere. To the point where the why, it's proven. So a research by the National Bureau of Economic Research, they looked into customer support using ChatGPT to help with their customer service calls, and they found a 14% increase in productivity. Think about that. 14% on their day was saved by using ChatGPT to help with the customer responses, customer support calls. So in our age of info, especially information workers, a lot of us are doing information work where we share information to help others do things faster and more efficiently. That's where AI is having the most impact. So what many of us don't know is how to use it properly, and that's what we're going to get into today. But first, starting with this why, is you think about the goals, think about the vision, the purpose, the measure of success. Why do you want to use AI in your company? Could be just an investigation, could be just a research. You just maybe want to do a trial, test it out, maybe just share it with a few people in your company just to see how they could use it in their day jobs. More importantly, the better way to go is actually pick a process, a small, discrete process that's perhaps not working very well. Maybe it's invoice payments. Maybe it's how you do some workflow for approvals of documents or reviews. Or maybe it's capturing even something simple like capturing team meeting minutes and sharing the actions. Things that you do on a repetitive basis. Think about anything that's repeated over and over again. Think about those processes and think, okay, what could we improve? And then more importantly, what do we want to achieve out of that improvement? This is where your goals come in, your targets. Is it time saving? Is it cost saving? And if so, how much time? How much cost? And then ultimately tie that to your company and your department goals. Anything you should do around AI or indeed any technology needs to be tied to your overall company goals. That's your why. That's your driver. And the reason that having a why is so important is because it will keep you focused. It will give you priorities. It will make your decision making much quicker. Because when under times of stress, when you're getting busy and different things are coming at you and have distractions, be it either new technology or just the day job, having that sole purpose goal target will keep everyone focused and aligned. So that's the why. Then as you build on that why, you're going to start to create what I like to call a culture of curiosity. I'll say that again. It's a culture of curiosity. A lot of people are fearing AI. It's going to take our jobs. And there's a lot of headlines. I saw one just the other day from British Telecom in the UK, United Kingdom, saying that they're going to reduce their workforce by, I think it was about 25% by 2030 because of AI. Now, headlines like that are going to get the attention. But when you look behind those headlines, you'll find out that what they actually mean is, yes, they are going to reduce the workforce because of AI. They're going to replace some jobs with AI. But what they're not getting into is how their other jobs are going to be created or changed as a result of AI. So publicly, a company like that is saying, hey, market, we're going to become more efficient. That's what they're really saying in these statements. For you and I, what this means is that we have to embrace AI. We have to make friends with it. I love that. Make friends with make friends with AI. Because if you make friends with it, you're embracing it, you're then learning on it. And it can be as simple as just looking at it a little bit each day, reading a couple of headlines, use ChatGPT if you can at home or ideally at work, just to see how it works. Get involved in it, because then you can start to see how it'll improve your job. And as a result, we can then free up time. We can save time for more higher value. And bottom line is, it won't replace our jobs, but you will be replaced by someone using AI. Because we as humans still have creativity, we still have critical thinking and that emotional intelligence, which AI doesn't have. I say yet, because maybe one day, but right now, a lot of scientists are saying how the creativity, critical thinking, emotional intelligence isn't something that AI can replace quickly. So that's the why. Make sure you have the goals. So we tick that one off. That's the first step to make sure you don't do it the wrong way. Secondly, we get into the what. Let's change color for that. Let's go here. So then we talk about the what. So we talk about what is AI. We talked about the why and why it's so important. But just to quickly break down what is AI for people who don't know, and artificial intelligence, it was actually came about way back in the 1940s when we first started doing mathematical computation and building out the early days of computing. But it didn't really come into existence until the late 1970s. So in the late 1970s, that's when we were getting computers that were powerful enough to start processing the mathematics, the equations, and the data on a scale that started to look like forming decisions and machine learning. And that's the godfather of, or the overall uh, father of AI is machine learning. Machine learning is the predictive models. It takes some data and then responds based on what it's seeing, the trends. So a great example of that is if you have invoices of a certain value of $500, which are always approved quickly, that's a trend. So future invoices of a certain value of $500 would be processed automatically. That's machine learning. It's learning habits. It's learning trends. Maybe it's maintenance of equipment. Maybe there's a pump on a pipeline, for example, that typically on average they fail every 2,000 hours or need maintenance every 2,000 hours. So predictably, machine learning says, okay, based on this information, this pump is coming up for service soon because it's approaching the 2,000 hours. It starts to learn based on the data. Now, the big change was generative AI. So in the last few years, generative AI is where it creates information. It doesn't necessarily, it has some learning, but it's starting to get more ambitious, if you like. It's starting to daydream, but it's also starting to be more creative and create new content, not just based on what it's learned, but speculate on what it could be. The point is, you have to prompt it, you have to guide it. So ChatGPT is a great example of generative AI, but you have to prompt it in the right way. So, and that's where the name comes from. We talk about ChatGPT. It actually stands for generative pre-trained transformer. Not the greatest name for a tool, generative pre-trained transformer, but that's what it is. It's generative. It creates new information. It was actually trained. ChatGPT was actually trained on 45 terabytes of information. It was trained on the internet data. Which you think about how much 45 terabytes is, it's actually an amazing amount of data. It's actually, if you were to think about a bookshelf, that bookshelf would be 1 million feet long. That's how much books it's basically been trained on. So that's the what. So then let's take it into, it talked about machine learning, talked about generative AI, but then let's break it down to real world examples. How can we use it in business? And again, this is what we need to get right about the what. Where can we apply it? So, for example, in HR, human resources, we can use AI for helping onboarding because it can create onboarding information for people. When the generative AI has access to your data in your company, it can very quickly pull together all the information about the company and present it in an onboarding deck for new employees, an onboarding presentation. Resumes as well, when you're reviewing resumes, as long as that data is into a system which AI can review, it can then start to predict which resumes are going to result in better candidates for you to interview. On the flip side, I've also seen where some candidates are taking job descriptions, putting that into ChatGPT, and then asking ChatGPT to create a resume based on that job description. And it's coming up with awesome resumes because the resume is specifically built on that job description. However, that's the trick. Then the HR team and the recruiters have to be that extra cautious and extra ask better questions during the interview, because when you get a really good resume, you then need to make sure that person actually has the experience to back that up. So that's the flip side of AI, is it works for us, but then it also makes sure that we as humans need to have that better critical thinking to make sure the data we see is correct. In finance, you might do analysis of AFEs, authorization for expenditure forms, looking at the trends of costs over time, how often, frequency, duration, and then start to predicting in terms of here's the average value of the AFE, here's the ones we want to focus on, here's the ones we want to automatically approve. In finance also, there's a lot of standards, accounting standards in finance. So ChatGPT and generative AI is very, very good at summarizing massive amounts of data and then coming up with recommendations and actions or details so you can create a quick summary of IFRS 13, for example, say, and then also what does it mean to my company, which may be in the financial services industry. So it's very good at taking a lot of information and distilling it down into something that makes sense to you, as long as you prompt it in the right way. And then customer service. Also, I always like to talk about this because the example I gave earlier of the 14% improvement, the AI is very good at summarizing information. So knowledge-based articles or information about your products and services. So when a customer calls in asking about a feature or a question about your product, you can very quickly use AI to search for the answers and come back with a really good response, because it can search so much so quickly, far more than we as humans could ever search. And then the other area I love, which is around project management. I'm deeply passionate about project management. I've done it for many years, and I built my career on project management. So now seeing how AI can help project managers is amazing to watch. What I've seen recently with using AI for project management is that we can create to-do lists, our daily task list for where to spend our time, because the AI is looking at the whole project, the schedule, tasks, what's coming up, what's delayed, who's working on what, and then it's starting to allocate to-do lists and task lists to each of the people based on what is due on the project. Instead of me or one project manager looking at the schedule, it's got AI is looking at all the schedule and everyone's tasks and everyone's availability, and then assigning tasks based on skills and the right people at the right time. For construction projects, for example, as well, that's another great example where you often have trades come in and be put onto different areas of the job, and maybe they're delayed because something's not there. Maybe the concrete pour hasn't finished on time. So the AI can then actually move that trade to a different area of the site, or maybe delay another job, and it can automatically reschedule the task very, very quickly, much more efficiently than humans can. And that's the amazing thing. It can mechanically very quickly do that. What I would say is you always need that oversight, that human interpretation, to make sure it's doing it in the right way that makes sense for the business. And the other big area around across IT, project managers, HR operations is reporting. So AI is really, really good at instantaneously creating status reports, because it's pulling that information immediately from all the source systems. Typically, a person has to pull that information and consolidate it into a report, whereas AI is doing that for us. It's creating those status reports, those real-time metrics on financials or schedule very, very quickly. So that's the what. We talked about the what you need to do, what it applies to, what you can use AI for. You have to be very, very clear on that. So we talked about the why, and then we just talked about the what there as well. So now let's jump into the who, and we'll change color for this. Let's go this here as well. We'll talk about the who. So the who is really important, because a lot of people think, as we said at the beginning, a lot of people think that AI is just aimed for smaller organizations, entrepreneurs, startups, but now the who is everyone. So the who works for both small companies, big companies, medium-sized companies, individuals, any groups, organizations. It really is pervasive. It really is the internet of our age. So what you need to do is then, based on your why and your what, is look at how you want to customize and use AI in your business. Think about those problem statements. Then what are you applying to it? Then you pick the people to actually then execute on the work, build out the AI for your company. This is where I like to call them igniters, or the upstarters. These are the people in your company who can really get behind the new technology, the AI, and start to build it out. You might need to give them training. Again, you can't expect people to just know this. This is brand new. So you have to upskill, apply training to your people to make sure they know how to use these tools properly. When I talk about ChatGPT, you have to do what we call prompt engineering. Use prompts to guide ChatGPT into giving you the right answers. So you have to invest in that. The more you invest up front into skilling and training, will give you a better result for your AI result coming out of it, to meet the why and the goals that we talked about at the beginning. And by the way, for anyone who's based in Canada, any businesses based in Canada, so right now there's a lot of training grants available where the government will actually fund up to 80% of training in new technologies. And if you want to find out more about that, reach out to me, because I've got a training program that qualifies for these Canadian grants. So you can get up to 80% back and funded by the government to learn AI. So how cool is that? The government's actually going to pay you to learn about these new technologies. So then once you've built up that team, the igniters and the upstart, the focus team to do that, then they can work alongside, again, embrace, be friends with the AI. They work alongside AI to be your technology partner, to be more to create more improvements and efficiencies. And that's the who. That's where we cover the who of AI. And then finally, let's jump into a different color. We jump into the how. So then how do you do it? We've talked about the why, the what, and the who of AI. Now we talk about the how. And this is where successful adoption is absolutely critical to any company, because you don't want to waste money on this, and it requires a strategy. So when you're building an AI strategy, you cover off the points I've just talked about around the why, the what, the who, the very specific reason, what are you going to use it for, who's going to be involved. Then you need to consider some very specific elements, the key ingredients that make AI successful, because if you don't do this, it's going to cause frustration and cost you a lot of money. The couple of the key things to be aware of are the data. You need to make sure you've got a good data set, solid, quality data, and also a lot of it. The more data you have to train your AI on, the better. We already said about how ChatGPT was trained on 45 terabytes, that million feet length of a bookshelf. So your data, if you're going to train, you do, because ChatGPT was based on internet data, you want to base it on your company data. So by doing that, you're giving the AI access to maybe your ERP system, your enterprise resource planning system, your HR system, your customer management system, your asset management system. It's pulling all that data together to then be trained. But know what data it's used, know how you're being trained, know what data it's being trained on. Then also do the ethics. There's a lot of discussion around the ethics of AI. How do you use it in the right way? Make sure you use it for good, not for bad. So when you're using AI in your company, you need to be able to explain how it's making decisions. And we don't always know. That's the scary and also exciting thing about AI, is it's being creative and actually starting to make decisions itself. So you need to understand the parameters it's being given, to make those decisions. So for example, it can only make decisions based on this set of information. So it would then write a disclaimer to say, this decision is based on financial information between the year 2021 and 2022. Therefore, if we end up making a decision for 2023 or 24 data, we've made it on a set based on those previous 2 years. We've set parameters for it. We know how it's going to be used. So if anyone comes back and says, how did you make this decision, or what did you base this decision on? You can't say the AI made the decision. We as humans are still accountable for our decisions. You can't blame AI for the decision making, but you can use AI to help with your decision making. And that all goes back to making AI your friend and your partner. And as I said, always keep the human, the decision maker in the loop. Make sure there's that review, that sense check, before any information or answers are published. And then thirdly, what I would say around the how is start small and scale fast. Do a pilot, a trial, a proof of concept. How do you get going with it? Is just start in a small area. It could be just reviewing email chains. Another great use case for AI is reviewing a massive long email chain and coming up with the actions from that. So you no longer have to trawl through big, long email trains, but do that for a number of areas. Do it for maybe a customer service team, or maybe do it for a project team. Try it out, see how it goes. I've also seen where AI is being used for customer service representatives to deal with customers, but they started internally first. Start with your internal help desk or service desk. Use it within your company and let people know. So, hey, we're using AI to help us with our internal services and help desks. We want to try this out before we launch it to the public and our customers. And then you run a trial, see how it goes. And that's a good, safe space to build out the AI, see how it's used. understand how it's giving answers. More importantly, how to ask it questions to get the right answer. The point is on the how is don't do this on your own. Hire an expert, collaborate with experts in the industry, get expert advice, because if you don't, it can be frustrating and expensive later on. Like any new technology, make sure you get the right expertise involved. And I actually cover a lot of this in my technology accelerator program, which is the full end-to-end of how to stand up your AI strategy. And as I mentioned, that technology accelerator program that I run is actually qualifies for the Canada grant for training. So you get up to 80% paid by the government on that training. So if you want to know more about that, please reach out. So in the nutshell, that's where we wrapped up on the how there. So to recap, we covered the why. Why are you using AI? What's the goal, the vision, the mission? What's your measure of success? How do you know I've achieved what you wanted to? Don't just playing with it's okay, but time is money. At the end of the day, you want to use it for a very specific reason. So be clear on your why. Then we talked about the what. Let me just change the color here. Then we talked about the what in terms of where to apply it. We talked about customer service, finance, IT, project management. There's amazing use cases that I've seen and implemented for my clients around using AI. So using the what, make sure you're clear on that, and then try it out. As I said, with the how, you start small and scale fast, but you can only do that with the who. You have a right team, which might need investing in training to make sure that you're upskilling your team to make sure you deliver it in the right way. And then the how includes building that AI strategy. And then more importantly, collaborating with experts, making sure you have the right specialist skills to help you deliver these projects and these AI technologies in the right way. So that's how you don't get these things wrong and how businesses don't get these things wrong about AI. So again, I'll just check the questions there. I think I've covered everything. Yep. Thank you for those other couple of questions coming in. Appreciate that. Okay. Yep. Perfect. As always, if you have any other questions on AI, always love to chat. Feel free to reach out. As always, and it's always been a pleasure sharing this information with you. I love this new technology. I think it's fascinating. I want to thank you for taking time to spend it with me today. And I'll look forward to seeing you in the next Technology Accelerator video.